So today our topic is design thinking, and we are here again for 1 hour. And then after this hour, we have 1 hour break, and then we are coming back for the open session. And this is part of the Run in a Boost online bootcamp. And a few words about myself, just to get to familiar a little bit so that you know who is talking today. So my name is Milla Mäkinen, and I'm a principal research scientist at HAMK University of Applied Sciences, and I'm located in the HAMK Edu Research Unit. And my background comes from social sciences, so you will probably hear this from the way I present design thinking to you. I have a multidisciplinary PhD, which is from social sciences and service design. So I'm specialized in service design, and I do service design-based research as well. And I would classify myself as a change design and service design expert who is really enthusiastic about customer and employee experiences. They are my interests, and I have about 20 years of work experience in facilitating, researching, and teaching change. And I think that what we are talking about today, design thinking as well, it's a framework for creating change. It's framework for creating new ideas and discovering things about problems in our environments and surroundings. So it's also a framework for change creation. And I have myself also worked as an entrepreneur, so I have had my own company, and I think maybe that one also gives some kind of background to why I speak about design thinking the way I do. I have also been in my company both teaching and doing design thinking based work, but also I have been applying it to creating my own company and improving my own services. So it's something that I look at from different perspectives. Anyway, welcome. And please, if you have questions, comments, do use the chat. We are here for 1 hour, as I said first. And what we go through is what is design thinking and how design thinking links to innovation. And then we test a little bit how we can put design thinking into practice. And then I will remind you of what's coming up next. And of course, then, as I said, this session lasts 1 hour, and then we will have 1 hour break. And then after that, we have the open session coming up. So that's what's coming up. And then the first thing I want to tell you is that, curiosity is really the core when we talk about innovation and design thinking as a framework for creating innovation. So it's the core, it's the heart of innovation. And that's why I would always ask students to write down questions. Whenever you are looking at something, listening to something, seeing something new, write down questions, keep up your curiosity and keep up feeding your curiosity. And that's why today also I ask you that during my lecture, please write down at least one question and be prepared to share it with others. And then we will go ahead. So let's dig into design thinking first. What is it really? And first, when we think about design thinking, of course, I always think that it's good to kind of separate what are the makings of the concepts that we are talking about. And the first part of design thinking is design. And now my question to you is that what comes to your mind when you hear the word design? Please share in the chat. What comes to your mind when you hear the word design? And it's core, of course, in today's lecture. So we can see creativity there. Anything else? What comes to your mind when you think about design? And these questions that we are asking today and posing and creating don't have wrong or right answers. So feel free to just answer. Modeling, creation, yes. Innovation, multiple factors interlinked. Building something. Let's see if we get some other answers still there. What comes to your mind when you think about design? artistic and art. Yes, so also art comes often to our mind when we think about it. So we have quite an interesting selection of answers because there is that creativity, there is this an innovation, there is this modeling, making something concrete, then building something. There is the art part, and then functionals. And also somebody is mentioning structure and organization. Interesting. And concepts. Yes, thank you for sharing your ideas. Design is nowadays linked to many things, actually. So if we think about the kind of history of design, then it has been linked more maybe to something tangible, material, something built, like somebody in the chat also mentioned. Nowadays, design is linked to many other concepts. You might have seen the concept of design, human-centered design, planet-centric design. There is service design, organizational design, these untangible forms of design. But still, we also have the traditional fields of design, like industrial design or interior design or architecture. So all of this is design. So basically, if we look at what design is, we can think that it's in all of these. For example, there is design in all the web pages, apps, all the digital tools and technologies. There is design in creating them, so in the innovation process for getting to that website, but there is also design in the end product. There is design in these workshops and ideation processes, organization of things. There is design in every single service. If we look at the cafe, everything there is design. There is a design of the processes, of the customer experience, but also all kinds of tangible things like the interior design or the app that is used and all those kinds. The buildings are designed, the chairs, the tables, the layouts are designed. So the way we look at design nowadays, it's really everywhere, actually. And if we go to the basics, somebody mentioned also building things in the chat. And yes, the basic kind of definition of design is form giving. So it means that design is a means to give form to our abstract thoughts. So if we are thinking about something, even in like industrial design, for example, we try to give it physical form. So first we start to sketch it, and then we start to make mock-ups out of it, and that's form giving. But we can do the same with processes and organizations and change. When we put design into it, it means that we draw processes, we draw cartoons that help us understand how a service works, or we sketch out how interaction would happen with a certain app, for example. So design always brings the form giving into the process that we are doing, and that's really, really core. But then as well, like you mentioned in the chat as well, that nowadays design is more often linked to creativity and way of thinking. And actually the Design Council from the UK defines design as what happens when people use creativity to solve problems. So it actually is a mindset as well. Nowadays, when we talk about design, we don't just talk about the end results. We think about the mindset and approach, how we look at the world, how do we try to understand problems, and how do we create solutions to them. So if this is design, if design is form giving and it's also about creative thinking, then what is design thinking? Well, design thinking, it's also included in the concept, is word thinking. So it means that it's an approach to creative thinking that can lead to innovation. And you heard a lot about innovations yesterday. So you know that innovations can be also many, many different kinds of things. They can be intangible or tangible things that we create, solutions that are put in practice. So design thinking is a framework that can help us to innovate. And then it's very typical for design thinking that it has been concretized through different kinds of models, and maybe some of them are already familiar to you as well. With this session with design thinking and with the reference material that we are providing, we are hoping that you have a critical look at these as well. But let's look at what I mean by these different models. So since it is design thinking, it means that it includes always that form giving, concretizing our abstract thoughts to something visual. So also the models and process models have been visualized in different kinds of ways. One of the most famous one, we could say, of the design thinking models is the double diamond, which comes also from the Design Council from the UK. And the idea behind has been to really show to people who are not involved in design process that how the thinking process goes within design processes. And how this model goes, well, it starts always from a problem. So we have here that thinker, somebody who is kind of finding out a problem in his or her environment. That black dot can be that problem. And then the design thinking model or approach invites us to think that, as soon as we figure out a problem around us, we should already think that who does this concern? So who are the people that this problem concerns? So let's invite them to understand more about the problem. That's the first thing to do when you apply design thinking. And then the double diamond model invites us to use our divergent thinking. So it means that we find out a lot about the problem. We invite the people in concern to the process, and with them we start to discover as many issues as possible about that specific problem. So we open our thoughts, and that's why this model picture also opens at this point. So we use our divergent thinking. And after that, we use our convergent thinking, which means that then we are closing up our thoughts. We are picking from that big bunch of problems, those ones that we can now solve and that we can create solutions for. And all the time you can see that the group of people is walking along with this process. So we should all the time look around us at the table where we are creating something new and check that who is there and who is maybe missing, who we should invite to think with us. Only after we had defined then the problems, then we start to create solutions according to the double diamond model. So then we start again with divergent thinking. We start to develop a lot of different solutions, and then from those we pick those ones that are deliverable. So then again, we go to the convergent thinking. And this is kind of how the double diamond describes design thinking problems. At the end of this, you get some solutions. Of course, this one has been criticized by many because of its linear structure. So, the difficulty is always with visualizing things that they don't always portray what we want to say. So design thinking has as one of its core ideas that the thinking process is always iterative. So it is not actually as linear as the picture shows. So you should think that it might be that you have to go back to the problem several times. It might be that, you need to do several processes of problem, understanding the problems, and then you will find out the solutions. But I think there are also very good things about this design thinking model. First of all, one very important thing is that it clearly shows us that put as much effort to discovering the problem and understanding the problems as you put to creating possible solutions. We very often in creative thinking, we might go from the problem quite quickly to the solution, but design thinking invites you to stop for a while and use your divergent thinking capacity to actually discover more about the problems and only then move on to the solution stage. Okay, so that's one way of modeling design thinking, but there are many ways of describing this. As I said, Stanford Design School presents design thinking in this way. So we have very similar factors as in the double diamond, but maybe processed in a little bit different way, and also verbal kind of named in different ways. So instead of talking about discovering the problems, we talk about emphasizing with the people in concern. So whose world are we trying to understand? For whom are we trying to create something? We should first try to get to their shoes and understand the problems from their point of view. And only then we can define the core problems and we ideate. So again, divergent thinking, we use that one. Then here in Stanford Design School brings up very well this prototyping. That's very typical to design. So in the beginning, I said that design is form giving. Well, prototypes are a very important way of giving form to our ideas when they are still in the scratch or sketch level. I will tell you a little bit more about them soon. And then the last step is testing. So we concretize our ideas to prototypes, and then with the prototypes, we test them with the people in concern. So that's another way of defining design thinking. And here is more about prototyping. This is very important because for design, this concretizing abstract ideas is really at the core. So when we approach problems, we always try to create visualizations of them, like at as early stage as possible. We try to invite also the people along who are in concern as early as possible in the process. So about prototyping, what they can be, they don't have to always be very complicated technical mock-ups, but they can be sketches, they can be storyboards, cartoon-like pictures, they can be paper prototypes. You can draw an app and how it would work in a paper, and then with that paper you can discuss it with the person for whom you are developing the idea. So the point is that your thoughts that are in your mind as something abstract are then put into the paper or visualized in some way so that for the person who is testing the idea, it's easier to understand what you are talking about. So this is really at the core. Prototyping is core of design thinking. And I think that it's one of the very core ways in which design thinking as a creative thinking approach is differentiated maybe from some other frameworks. And this you can see, for example, here another model again. So I just wanted to show you some of these because you get the idea that this is really can be described in many ways. So IDEO, which is a very famous global design and creative agency, they have model design thinking in this way, and they kind of made it a little bit more tangible. So, but basically they are the same things. Frame the questions, gather inspiration, synthesize. So that's kind of in the double diamond when you found the core problem, then generate ideas for that, make ideas tangible means the prototypes, a test to learn more about them, and then you launch your idea and share the story about it. So a very similar process, but maybe pictured in a different way. In a nutshell, design thinking is about thinking divergently and convergently and changing between them, thinking visually. So we use our visual thinking and concretize the abstract thoughts all the time as much as we can. We emphasize with the people for whom we are designing something. So we try to put ourselves in the user's shoes. Very important part of design thinking is stepping out of the office and we step into the daily spaces of the user. So let's not try to imagine the problems and create solutions from our own office somewhere far away. We should go to the people. So if we are trying to for example, solve something for I don't know, like 35 years old population, let's go where they are in their daily life. Let's go to the libraries or the supermarkets or to the street and ask them there. It's core to learn by doing. So prototyping is about learning by doing and testing the prototypes with the people who are to be the users of our solutions. It's a lot about learning with others. So there is that thought in design thinking that no one person can know everything. So we need to include many people and learn with others and co-create and collaborate a lot. And then finally, it's about iterating and embracing errors and uncertainties. So when we are creating prototypes and kind of we are making the solutions, the sketches of the solutions, we have to be also ready to hear from somebody that, okay, actually this part doesn't work and that doesn't work, it didn't go well. We should take it as as a possibility to learn more and embrace it instead of kind of being afraid of it. Because at the end of the day, nothing is ever perfect, even the good solutions. And really like simplified idea about design thinking, then lately Stanford Design School has been just saying that actually in the end it's about just combining problems with the right solutions, and it's an ongoing process of that. I really like this picture. I saw it just a couple of days. It's Mauricio Mejia, who works in the Arizona State University. And one of the kind of challenges with teaching about design thinking is that, you know, it has been described in those different models as a really linear process, as if our creative thinking goes from A to B, and, you know, that's how it goes. Well, actually, creative thinking can be very messy. So in this picture, Mauricio nicely describes that actually the designers explain their thinking process and making process as a really messy process, but then the models are kind of showing a very neat picture out of it. So just be aware of that. It's okay if when you are using design thinking for innovation, you feel kind of chaos at some point. And Damien Newman has made this design squiggle model, which is just that messy line there on the background. And he says that actually it's part of design thinking process to really feel lots of kind of noise and uncertainty in the beginning. And little by little, you start to find patterns and insights. And then in the end, you have clarity and focus on your solution. So keep that in mind. It's not always as neat as some of the models portray. But hey, share to me at this point in the chat that now when you think about it, you think about design thinking as a creative thinking approach. Do you identify yourself more as a design thinker, or are you more maybe like straight from problem to the solution thinker, and not maybe using the divergent thinking so much, not maybe digging into the things so much? So what do you think you are? And then the key question is that how do you think you could move towards a design thinker's mindset, where you use the divergent and convergent thinking, use time for digging into solutions as much as you use time for creating solutions? Are you emphasizing with the users, or do you easily think that, okay, no, I know it, I can do it? So where are you? Please answer again to the chat so we can see what do you think? Are you more of a design thinker or from problem straight to the solution thinker? And again, we are not here to judge or to criticize anybody. It's just interesting to hear. And if you can also mention a takeaway that how do you think like if you are, for example, this problem to solution kind of straightforward thinker, like how could you move towards a design thinker's mindset? We have both here, as you can see from the chat. We have already design thinkers, and we have also people who are more like jumping from problems to solutions. Personally, I think that you really have to work on it. You have to kind of stop to think that how am I doing things now? And that's where I think that those models are actually useful. We can use them as kind of checklists. We can check through them that, hey, where am I? Like, did I remember to open my thoughts? Did I consult? Did I benchmark? Did I go to see how it happens in the actual service? Did I ask from the users or the potential customers? So they help us to stop and think, okay, how can I move towards design thinking? We have also many people who have say that they are messy thinkers. This is what creative thinking usually is. Interesting. For those who find themselves more from the number two, then please do think next time. Stop and look at how you can open your thinking process. Maybe easier said than done, I have to say. So Let's move on. How does design thinking then link to innovation? Well, again, these different frameworks they help us to approach this question. Yesterday you had a long lecture about innovation, and you now know that innovations are novelties that are made concrete, they are useful, and they are implemented, and they create value. So it means that in the design thinking process, we get a lot of ideas, but the ideas are not yet innovations. Innovation is something that can be really implemented. So it would mean that in the design thinking process, the outcome is an innovation. This is the framework for innovation, equally from the Design Council, and this is kind of the next version of the double diamond model that I showed you. And I like this also in its own ways. It brings in more kind of elements of design thinking and shows, or at least tries to show, more of the complexity that it involves. So again, we have the same double diamond: discovering about problems, defining the problems, developing solutions, and delivering then the outcomes. And again, we have the divergent and convergent thinking there. That's why it's in the diamond model. But then we have also the design principles added here. So remember to be people-centered, communication, visual and inclusive communication, collaboration, co-creation, and iteration. And they emphasize the iteration process there. And then they brought here the idea of methods. So there are, of course, many concrete methods that we can then use to help us to go through the creative thinking process to come up with innovations. And a very important issue here is the leadership part. So it has to be led. The process has to be led. There has to be a way to create the conditions that allow innovation. It can mean culture change in some cases. It can mean new skills. It can mean new mindsets. So there are some very important additions here that show that, okay, in order to get to innovations with design thinking, we really have to consider these factors as well. IDEO describes renovations in this way, that when you get the ideas through your creative thinking process, then you should reflect on whether they are desirable from the user's perspective, whether they are viable, can they actually be implemented, are they feasible, and also, as a very important part here, is responsibility. Are they responsible? So all obviously, nowadays, when we are talking about innovations, we have to pay more and more attention to responsibility as well. And that's where great innovations are formed. So we can use the design thinking approach to create innovations, but we should think that design thinking doesn't always necessarily lead to innovations. That's the critical part of it. Okay, let's do a little test next. Some of you already are design thinkers, but I thought that it's still nice to do something a bit interactive, and so that you can actually share with each other and get to know to each other as well. So next you will get to do that. So let's first test a little bit, and then I will give a quick summary of some methods as well. And then we are approaching already the end of our session. But let's see. So how can we put this thinking into practice? And let's be creative and respective, because we have different kinds of people online. So first, a couple of minutes for everybody. So I hope you have maybe you have mobile phone there, maybe you have a laptop, maybe you have paper. Let's try out how we could get to this creative thinking. So first, reflect on your typical morning routine and identify one frustrating or inefficient moment in your morning routines. So what do you usually typically do in the mornings? Think about it for a minute, and then identify something frustrating, inefficient. Maybe it happened last week. Maybe it happened today in the morning. And write that down. write down that what is that really frustrating or inefficient moment in your morning routine. You don't have to share it for us. Write it down somewhere in a piece of paper or in your mobile phone or somewhere, because you will soon get to share it with smaller groups. There is one example already in the chat. Thank you. Okay, I will give you a few seconds so that you get to write one thing. That's just enough. And then let's move on. So I hope everybody wrote something frustrating or inefficient in your morning routines. And now remember that when we are testing this is again, like, we are not giving you grades for this. So just nothing, there is no right or wrong answer to these things. Let's move on then. So open up a little bit that idea. So you identified something frustrating or inefficient. What happens actually? How does it make you feel? And why is it a problem? Write down your answers, not in the chat, but somewhere next to you in a piece of paper, or you can write it in your phone or whatever you have there available next to you. So you have one frustrating moment in your morning routine. What happens then? How does it make you feel? And why is this a problem to you? I will give you a minute to do it. And again, you don't have to now share in the chat, but just write it for yourself. You will soon get to share with a smaller group. So what happens in your frustrating, annoying, inefficient moment in the morning? How does it make you feel? And why is it a problem? Okay, I will move on quite fast. This is also typical for creative processes. Sometimes we put fast time limits. Okay, now I will next put you into breakout rooms. Share your morning problems in the breakout room. So everybody should have one, and they have described what happens, what do you feel, and why is it a problem. Decide from those problems that which problem you want to concentrate. So pick one shared problem, and then brainstorm creative solutions for that. So brainstorm as many solutions as possible. And here is one technique that you can use. We often say when we are in a group that somebody suggests something, we might say that, yeah, okay, but we already tried, but it has been done before. In this session, we will do it in a different way. So you will use the yes and method. It means that when somebody says possible solution, you will say, yeah, that's a good idea. And in addition to that, you could also do this. And then you introduce your idea. So we are changing our mindset to kind of constructive and positive thinking as well. Solution-oriented thinking, I would say. So brainstorm quickly some ideas and make a quick prototype of the solution, chosen solutions in the group. So it can be like, for example, new habit. It can be a layout change in a room. It can be an app idea, anything very simple and visual. But share your problems, decide which problem you want to brainstorm for, and brainstorm ideas for that one, and sketch or describe a very quick prototype of that. And then I will call you after a while to this shared room. I will give you 15 minutes, so we don't have much time. You will have 15 minutes to share those, and then I will invite you back to the room and we will do a reflection here. Now I will stop sharing. So if you now wish, you can take a screenshot of this instruction, then you have it there. I will also share it to your rooms. But now I will just do some breakout rooms. So just, I think I will give you 13 minutes. So 13 minutes and you are 20. So let's put, for example, 4 rooms, and you can just join your rooms now. So you have 13 minutes. Share problems, start the creation, create solutions, and come back when I call you back with the solution idea. Okay, Now we are all
Hopefully
getting
soon.
back. Hello, hello. Nice to see your faces. This is the best part of the lecture, always in the online lectures, when you accidentally see some people's faces when they come back from the breakout rooms. Hey, who wants to share your problem and your solution prototype or idea? Just to hear a couple of examples. We had 4 groups. Did you manage to make your mornings better today? Anybody? As I said, there are no right or wrong answers here, but it would be nice to hear at least one example. What was the problem that you started to solve and what's your solution? Yes, Dennis, go ahead. You had your hand up first.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that session. It was good to meet people a bit and chat to them.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the chat that I missed some sessions due to work obligations, but here we are. So yeah, just briefly to define the problems, there was Yuri and Lewis. Yuri from Finland and Lewis from Portugal. Myself, at the moment, based in Norway,
Mhm.
coming from Ireland. So basically, we had 3 different problems, but we developed a kind of one solution that gets them all. So basically, first we were brainstorming on what problems are in the morning there. So from
Mhm.
Yuri's problem, where he had a problem with the low temperature in the morning, he didn't have enough
Mhm.
time to scrap the ice from the car, and that causes delays. From what's called Lewis's perspective, just kind of action of waking up in the morning, and then
Yeah.
myself of unconsciously like snoozing alarm, right?
Mhm.
So basically,
Mm.
we came up with some ideas and democratically agreed to a few solutions. So
Okay.
basically, from those solutions of breaking down those problems, we created one solution for all,
Mhm.
and that is basically like make sure to wake up 1 hour before you have to go somewhere, so you have enough time for yourself, whatever you want to do. And then from there, if you go into the past, you need to make sure that not just wake up earlier, but also to go to bed earlier.
Mm.
But that doesn't solve the solution. That doesn't solve the problem of not getting enough sleep. So then basically we have 3 things that we need to make sure, and then a bonus. So one thing, get up 1 hour before you have to go somewhere.
Mhm.
Make sure that you have like 7.5 hours of sleep by some
Mhm.
study and so on. There are like cycles of
Mhm.
1.5 hour of the REM sleep and stuff.
Mhm.
So you make sure that you actually are rested, and then have alarm of when you have to go to sleep, not just when you have to get up.
Ah, okay,
So
that's
yeah,
that's something new.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So basically,
Okay.
just to
Yeah.
encapsulate all these things,
Yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
bonus would be basically to put your phone away, because with new routines, your body is not used to it, and it would reject it. So you would
Yeah.
automatically snooze it. So if you
Yeah.
put your phone on the another side of the room, that would kind of get you moving and get your conscious up. So that's a
Interesting.
bit from our side.
Okay, thank you so much, Dennis, and thank you for your group for sharing your ideas. Yes, you had 3 different things, then you combined them together, then you made lots of solutions, and then kind of one set of recommendations, we could say. Then, if you wanted to go further, we could start looking at all those recommendations, make more ideas, and think that, oh, is there something? Do we need like a human to help here? Do we need an app, for example, to help here? Do we need something technical? Do we need to write down a schedule somewhere in our home, or what do we need? Or does the TV need to have a kind of automatic switching off button or something? So we would go further to dig through those solutions as well. But that's a really nice example. This quick exercise is just kind of something that you can do even yourself if you feel stuck with your ideas. We have a lot of these creative techniques that you can just try yourself with something very simple from daily life, and then it helps you to tackle the bigger problems that you're dealing with when you want to apply design thinking. So this is just one of those quick exercises for that. Let's go forward because we don't have much time left for this session. So, and nice that you all got to meet each other as well. Let's still share. Yes, and Yuri is also saying great elaboration of the problems. This was a really quick exercise to show how that kind of divergent and convergent thinking works in practice, actually. Now, then for helping, sometimes, now we had a really quick example and quick tryout, which is quite easy because everybody can think of those problems, and then it's relatively easy to start to generate solutions as well. But sometimes we are dealing with issues or problems that are not so close to our own daily life. So then we need to use different methods, and they can help us to go through the design thinking, or they can help us to kind of start the design thinking approach. One of the big kind of set of tools is related to understanding the context. So if we are developing something for certain people or certain service, we can go and observe. I talk about it myself as like hanging out in the places where people where people are in their daily lives. So go and hang out, observe, listen, look. We can do interviewing, document analysis. Of course, there is a lot of documentation, a lot of information online about many issues and many groups of people. We can do benchmarking, so we can check which existing services or solutions are there. For example, for this morning waking up, I would check that what kind of apps and solutions have already been created. Can we create something better? Then we should switch on our empathy, as I said. So this is especially important when we are very far from the problem ourselves. So in experience research, it is said that the further away you are from that problem, the more likely it is that your solutions will go wrong. So you should really try to switch on your empathy. You can do shadowing. You can spend time with people. I have, for example, done shadowing with some workers that I follow their whole work day, and then I get an idea of how their work day is formed if we want to develop better employee experiences, for example. We can use the personas, we can do descriptions of the people for whom we are designing, and then bring those descriptions and summaries always to our table when we are thinking about the problem and the solutions, and it keeps us closer to the people that we are trying to solve something for. One very good way to switch on your empathy and understanding is trying out yourself. So do mystery shopping, go and try the products or the services yourself and make notes and observations that you feel there. We can use many creative techniques for getting creative. We can use brainstorming, which is the basic one. There are many different techniques of brainstorming. There are some specific ones for design thinking, for example, Crazy 8, which is about visualizing our thoughts and then through that getting into the creative solution making. We need tools for selecting and defining. Affinity diagram is one tool that you might want to use when you try to figure out that from the vast amount of problems, for example, which one is the core, or from the vast amount of solutions, which one could be the most useful. You can also use decision matrix for this. And then prototyping, of course, is the method for building and testing with others. There is an ocean of methods that you can use to help you in your creative thinking process or design thinking approach, and you can just Google a lot of them. But I really also recommend to you the IDEO's toolbox, but also a website which is called Session Lab, and there is it's sessionlab.com, and there is a library which is just full of different kinds of methods that you can search, and then you can find from there methods that help you in your design thinking process. So that's just to show that, okay, that sometimes switching on to creative thinking is very hard. Actually, it's not always easy. It depends on the moment, the people, where we are, with whom we are, and many different things. So, but we don't need to get stuck with it. We all are creative. We all solve many problems in our daily lives constantly based on our creativity. So we have it in ourselves, but sometimes we have to kind of help it come to surface. And these methods are very good for that. So in practice, design thinking can be many things. All of this could be design thinking. It could look like this. It could look like many, many things. That's our session. I will just wrap up now because it's been 1 hour and we will soon have our 1 hour break. And then after that, we have the open session. Please do share in the chat your takeaway from this session, what you are thinking about now when you leave. And in the beginning of the session, I asked you to write down at least one question when we go through this lecture. When we come back to the open session after 1 hour, please bring your question with you. As I said, curiosity is at the heart of innovation, so we should always attempt to question things. So I hope everybody has at least one question. Bring that one with you after 1 hour. What else is coming up in relation to design thinking? Watch the interview video with Ricardo Galliot, which you can find from the InnoBoost website, from that address that I show there, and familiarize yourself with the reading list. So we have prepared a reading list for you about this week's materials, and do the assignment. And the reading list you can find from that short link that is in this material. You can also find these materials from there. So the assignment on design thinking is reading or watching one positive and one critical material about design thinking, and think about what you can learn from the material, how design thinking can boost innovation, and what might hinder its innovation impacts. That's your questions. So this is what's coming next. So basically, I will end this session by saying that we will meet after 1 hour in the same place. And please bring your question with you. And for now, I will say thank you for this 1 hour and see you after 1 hour again in the same Zoom.